Heroic versus Endpoint will be our first game of the day, and what a series to be starting off the proceedings. It's all up for grabs with only one place in the semis, and the question is, who will grasp it firmly with both hands and hold on to their tournament life? Joining me to answer those questions are, of course, the wonderful Potter and Blair. Christine, this is going to be a banger of a series to be starting off with. I'm so excited for it.
I'm so excited as well. And the very first thing I have to remind everyone on how Endpoint got here, 0-16 on their own map pick of Vertigo in that series versus Mad Lions. And they came back and won the last two maps to be able to make it here today. So coming back from a 0-16 deficit, it's incredible in and of itself. So I'm mostly excited to see if Endpoint actually picked Vertigo again into this series, because not only did they get 0-16, but they lost after they picked it versus Heroic 9-16. So are they going to pick it again in the third time in a row for this series?
I think the map vetoes are going to be really, really interesting coming into this. But also, what's going to be really interesting is seeing where our fans in Twitch chat are lying. If you're a UK lad like myself, you best be putting #end in the chat. Or if not, maybe put #heroic if you think the Danes are going to be taking it. But I think, being a UK lad myself, we should start off by talking about the team of Endpoint. Not entirely UK based, but 3 out of 5, that ain't bad for a top tier team. And I think that's a really good point that you made, Christine. The fact that they lost 0-16 on their own map pick against Mad Lions, but they had the audacity to come back, Blair. I think we've got to give them some credit for their mental fortitude.
Oh yeah, 100%. Endpoint have impressed me the most amongst all the teams we've seen play here, right? Now, if you look at, for example, Mad Lions coming with Innocent as a new player, you have Heroic shaking off the rust, you have Big Off who are off to kind of a slow start. Endpoint look fantastic. Yes, they are the biggest underdogs here. They're ranked 42nd, and I think that with the latest update, right now they're ranked 39th, so like a little bit of a jump in the rankings currently based on the performance they've had here. But like Potter mentioned, being 0-16 down, and having the mentality as kind of like a lower tier team to come back. And yes, Mad Lions have a stand-in, but still 0-16 and mounting a monumental comeback, even in map number 3, where they were down 12-3. And this map has been crucial. Everyone's stepping up. Robin, crucial. We have the UK lads as well. They have really impressed me. And honestly, even though, let's be real, Heroic are the favorites going into this matchup, I'm kind of rooting for these guys. They look like the plucky underdogs, and they have what it takes. They do have the skill set, and they seem to have the mentality as well. And you know what, Prayer? I feel like that might be enough.
It really, really could. You know what? It's 2020. Anything can happen in this year. And I love that you picked up upon Crucial there, because you know what? We saw him having a little bit of a slow start on that first map, their own map pick. But then when he managed to get an AWP into his hands, Christine, it was an entirely different story for him.
It was. And Crucial seems to be one of those type of players where, he's not the most consistent that we've seen out of the top echelon of operas, but he seems to be an opera who's capable of taking over an entire game. And that's what we saw him do on that Mirage. So certainly today, going up against the likes of Heroic, we need Crucial to step up just like that once more and be able to have that option to take over this game.
We do indeed. And we also mentioned a player, Robin, who we had the chance to chat with ahead of this match.
How to describe it? We start off by getting 60-0 on our, and then we go into the second map with no expectations, and we managed to smash them 16-8. And then third map, we were down 13-3, I think, and we brought it back and won 16-14. So it's hard to put words on that best of 3, but it's mental. So happy that we managed to win. Well, if we keep that mentality up, I think no one can count us out. Heroic as an opponent, they're really tough. I think they counter our map pool pretty well, and they have really strong players, so it's obviously going to be really tough playing against them. But at the same time, I think if we do our research and we get the maps we want, I think we can give them a good fight as well. Maybe even get 2 maps of them and come through. I want to wish our opponents good luck and don't underestimate us.
Don't underestimate the likes of Endpoint. But Heroic, on the other side of the server, as you said, Blair, if you're thinking logically here, these guys are the favorites coming into it. But that said, they did have that win over Mad Lions, but again, they lost to Big. So I'm interested to see what you're making of this squad coming into this first game.
That's the thing. Like the beating, like the slapping around they delivered to Madlands, I wasn't surprised there, right? I mean, they are right now Heroic. I feel one of the better teams in this tournament. Also a top team in Denmark, as I like to call it at times. Facing up against Big, like Big are #1 team. Yeah, they had a very slow start against Endpoint, but they've looked good in the past couple of games I've seen of theirs. But let's be real. Look, I like Endpoint. I like the fact that they're plucky. They have that upset potential, but Heroic are just a better team. And again, they don't have any new players coming in. They are off, just got off the player break, and now they're 100% warmed up. And if you just look at the names on this lineup, like Teslas, you're talking about Nico, you're talking about even Cadian himself. Man for man, they're more experienced. They have more laurels. They have achieved more, and they are honestly just better players overall and a better team, a better system overall than Endpoint. So I'm still gonna be saying that Heroic are the favorites here. You can't really deny that.
No, you can't really count it out. And I think if we're talking about pound for pound, complete firepower, Christine, I think it's fair to say that we're going to be siding on the side of Heroic. Because, Cadian, he was stepping up so much in some of these games previously.
He was, and Cadian's clutch ability in these series so far this weekend have been incredible. He's able to convert really rounds in those post plants. It seems like that's his strength. That's where he absolutely shines. So certainly today, we need to see Heroic set themselves up in a lot more post plant scenarios, because versus Big, that was a little bit of their struggle. They hardly were able to get into those bomb sites. I know that Big's defenses, their re-aggressions, their flashbang plays, it is a lot to digest, but for Heroic, I need to see some adjustments for them coming out into this series.
Well, a player that we haven't mentioned, or coach rather, that we haven't mentioned, 200 IQ of Hunden, and we had a chance to chat with him ahead of this crucial match.
A few days ago, we played against Big, and we got wrecked, to be honest. We had some issues getting control on both maps on the T side. We started T on both maps because we thought our T side on just 2 was way better, but we got surprised, and they were playing really, really well. The WP from my 2 Germans in Kito and Syrson, they played really well against us on that dust 2. The things we take with us from the Big game was like we can compete with the best. We know we can do much better, and when the team play starts to show up for us as well, then we are going to play much better. But this Big game just showed that we can compete with everyone in this world, especially when it's online right now. I think we played against Endpoint in the Summit qualifier a month ago, and I think we won 2-1 against them. They are a strong team. They are working hard. They just had a small break. They were competing in the player break as well, so that's a strong team, and I'm not even surprised they won against Mad Lions, because they can upset, and they are really, really strong team, even though they're from UK. So that's how it is.
Yeah, you wanna be a top boy, keep the movement going, don't stop, boy.
Even though they're from the UK, man, Hunden, I thought you were my bro. Oh, I'm so disappointed with that. But you know what? I'm going to take it as a positive, because he did say that he actually did expect Endpoint to be beating Mad Lions. They've been competing a lot throughout the player break, and I think this is going to be super interesting going forward. And to do that, we've got to take a look at what maps we're going to be playing out on. Blair, I want to start off with you and your expectations of this veto.
The big question is going to be Vertigo, right? Nuke and Overpass is going to get banned out. I think it's going to be a safe, like a standard ban phase, at least initially for these 2 teams. So we should have Nuke and Overpass getting banned out. Now, I'm expecting Endpoint to actually go with Dust 2 here, Potter. Mainly because, yes, I know they like picking in Vertigo, but the thing is, Vertigo is a map Heroic are pretty comfortable on. They're very good on. So I'm going to call that. I think it's going to be Dust 2, Train, and maybe Inferno as a decider.
I think you're onto something. I'm gonna say it's either Dust 2 or Mirage that Endpoint are gonna choose here. I know that Robin just said it in his interview. This map selection is gonna be crucial for Endpoint for their win condition, and Heroic already banning out that Dust 2. Now this leaves Overpass open, because Overpass is Heroic's auto veto every series that they approach. So Endpoint here at this point, they can either pick Overpass as a punish or stick to that Mirage, because Crucial had such a huge match on Mirage, and it's Heroic that's going to be picking out that Mirage. This is wild. This is wild, because Inferno is Heroic's usual lean and usual pick. We see Endpoint picking it out, even though that's Heroic's mainstay map. So this is a huge counter.
And Overpass getting banned by Endpoint? What the? Say it, Potter. What the heck? This doesn't make any sense. Look, Vertigo makes sense because both the teams are pretty comfortable on it, so it makes 100% sense. But the bans just don't make any sense. Why would it ban out Overpass? Like, Heroic's gonna ban that for you. There's no way they're gonna pick it.
This is wild.
I don't know.
This is very wild. Where does this leave you guys then? Sort of coming into this series, do you think, this has the potential to actually go to a full 3 maps?
I don't know.
Maybe. Okay, it's just that these first 2 maps are so swapped, right? Because that Inferno pick coming out from Endpoint, I honestly like it. I like the fact that Endpoint are coming out and saying, look, we've watched every film we can on Heroic, on Inferno, because there's so much information out there and we have the answer to beat you on your own map pick. So I like that mentality. And for this Mirage pick from Heroic, I think that's really interesting as well.
Well, I think that leads us perfectly into our predictions. This is going to be a wild one, but Sudan, I'm starting off with you. Where are you siding?
Look, the map vetoes don't make sense. I have no idea what's going to really happen over here, but what I do know, Heroic are the better team. Look, I like Endpoint, they're plucky, but I gotta be real, this is as far as the UK boys go. I don't think they're going to take it home this time around, Freya. I'm sorry.
Oh, my heart breaks. I hope, Potter, you might be siding more with me.
I can't. I have to stick with logic once more this morning. It's early in the morning. I'm going with Heroic. They should be closing this series out.
I feel like I'm gonna get disowned. It's like I'm torn between my heart and my head. But you know what? The heart wins out this time around. Endpoint, they've impressed me so far in this tournament. I know it defies all logic, but I've got to go with my UK boys in Endpoint. And I'm hoping that the chat might be agreeing with me here. Let's take a look and see the results. The 66%.
Wow.
My boys are out in full force. This is going to be a very, very interesting match, and I cannot wait to be delving right into it. And I think now that we have our predictions in, it's time to find out who is going to be right. And to do that, we've got to kick things off with map number 1. Is it coming home for the UK lads, or will the Danes prove dominant? With it all on the line, these questions must be answered, and it's coming up after this.
Coming home, Risk. It's coming home. They need to zoom out a bit on this cam so that we can see the flags. The UK have got this. I'm a total believer. They talk about sort of the Twitch chat maybe being a little bit crazy, and we've got them on our side today. Freya's with me as well. You've got, well, Blair and Potter.
Yeah.
You got Blair and Potter.
Yeah. The international game.
When has Blair's nation ever won anything? Let's be real. So he doesn't need to support anyone. Potter, let's not talk about that, because the US win quite a lot of stuff.
We win a lot of things.
But let's move away from this either way. It is the UK versus Denmark. I think they did this on purpose. They got the players ready. They got us ready. We're the perfect men for the job, both incredibly biased in one direction. And obviously we can both firmly agree with Twitch chat that the UK have got this.
Yeah, this is going to be an easy match for Heroic to win, so let's... Nah, for real, this is going to be an exciting match. I actually feel like no matter what the result becomes in this one, I think it's going to be a really good one. I think Endpoint, I'll give them some kudos here. They're actually developing into an interesting team. I'd like to follow these guys in the future. Sadly for them, this is going to be the end station for this tournament. But I think it's actually going to be a good game. I'm really looking forward to see Thomas and Surreal and Robin especially do their thing. I think Crucial is going to be a bit outmatched, but let's wait and see. Tessa's here in apartments getting ready.
Yeah, I think the veto as well just showed how interesting this one really could be. Not really what the analyst or myself, for example, was thinking would happen. Tessus, though, under pressure, already opens up with 2-0. Not the best of start for the UK lads, as Tessus just put them straight into the ground. Max will at least be able to train one back, but the bomb is in a pretty damn horrific position. Max just trying to make his way through the smoke, and they still haven't cleared the new man on the block, looking to try and just hold on with Down up behind, and Nico helping him out. It is going to be 1-0 for Heroic.
Very nice setup for them. And one of the things we have to mention as well with the veto is that this is the start of a new season. So a lot of the teams will be focused on either fixing mistakes they had before the season started, or they have actually been spending their time developing the map pool into something completely new. So no one knows. Maybe Heroic, they have been cracking overpass a lot in these last like 7, 8, 9 days they've had since their season started. So that could definitely play into the veto process here, because most of these teams actually know what the other teams are practicing, because they are sitting in the same practice groups and they can see that they are trying to either book games for specific maps or book games against opponents who play those maps. Actually, they don't really post the maps anymore, but you can kind of guess from the opponents.
Well, I think the other thing as well is, like, at least historically, Danish teams are always pretty good on overpass. So to have it as a veto, for me at least, was pretty weird. Like, it's not something I ever really expected. Obviously, you had Nuke in that mix as well. Of like, those were the two maps where if I were going to go, okay, playing Danish teams is a risk, those were the two I'd look to at least. So for them now bringing it into their map pool, especially with Hunden behind them as well, I think that's going to be a map to fear eventually. But maybe not, obviously not quite comfortable enough to pick it just yet. But to leave it out of their veto, that's a little bit different.
Oh, okay, Cadian. Just rushing down middle casually. Won't work out for him, but Nico luckily is there. So will be a 1-for-1 trade. Tess is pushing aggressively in apartments as well. This is just aggressive pushes all over the map from Heroic right now. Very confident.
Yeah, I like this sort of round as well, going into round 3, where you normally have a weaponry disadvantage. Of course, still having 3 rifles, which is relatively safe. Max, that's cheeky, though. Through the smoke, and back he fades as he evens up this scoreline once again. Nico potentially going to try and get a little bit more aggressive back down mid, but it does leave a lot onto Stout, who is left on just 43 HP. So there's a real chance he falls here.
Yeah, and that should be the round as well. Like, in this situation, you have such a big advantage, because you can always play 2v1, and you can always, in this situation, have the, what do you say, like, utility-based advantage, that you can put down smokes, you can put down flashbangs, 2 sets where the opponent only has 1. Nico's timing, though, might be good here. Maybe gets the first one for free, because they're not guessing that he's coming from this banana angle so early. And now he spotted. This should be the end of it.
Here into the back corner will force out Max, but he's made it around into another safe position. He can keep the crossfire going. Nico may at least be able to hold them into the side, but the time ticking too far gone for him to really do too much to try to spam through the wall. He does eventually kill off Max.
That's no time.
And at this point, he is just going down with the ship. He's taking them with him. Will Robin survive in this back corner? I'm not so sure. And that's not a bad round at all for Heroic. That was somewhat a bonus. The only problem is nowadays in Counter-Strike, your bonus round, I would say, isn't pure. Like, you're not making anywhere near as much money as you used to.
Yeah. But then again, like, if you look at the economy, there's money for double up setup. Yes, it's surrounded by pistols and 2 pharmacists, but on the other side of things, 2 SMGs, 2 Galils. So this is definitely a slight advantage money-wise for Heroic. But then again, we have seen Endpoint pull out some crazy stuff. Right now they're pushing Banana. Down is completely flashed and naded out of Oblivion. He's actually still alive here and will miss the shot, surely, for picking up the ult.
Yeah, and Cadian's got aggressive as well. This could be a bit of a problem. The only worry for Heroic here is the fact that the site has already gone into the T's control, and there isn't a kit available for them either. So time is going to be everything, but they've managed the rotation quickly. They've still got a lot of utility considering how much they actually started with, and that's somewhat the problem of these faster rounds. And in terms of weaponry as well, they're in a better position. So if anything, it's up to Endpoint to almost prove us wrong in this scenario. Surreal, up close though. And that Mac 10 is going to be as deadly as ever because they don't have head armor. If he can just jump through this smoke spot, it's Nico quickly. Surreal only with 1. And now it's left all onto Mighty Max. He has to try and spam through the smoke. He gets 2, but he's not got the planter. It's still being stuck by Tessus, but he didn't have a kit. And I don't think it's even realized by Max. That is a sneaky defuse and so much damage done by the T's and Max himself. But ultimately, Heroic win the round.
I think, I'm not exactly sure because we saw it from the T side perspective on the banana, but I think actually the last second smoke was thrown down by Cadian. If he didn't throw down that smoke on the Molotov, the diffuser wouldn't have been able to come in. That's a very, very little detail, very important little detail if that true was the case. So Cadian keeping it cool. 1 smoke actually saving the chance for Heroic to win that round because I thought Mighty Max had that one. I thought that was going to go his way.
I'm actually surprised he doesn't go for a repeat. I guess at that point, he just assumed they'd given up on defusing as he didn't hear a second tap. But I feel like when you're in a 1v1 and there's not enough time left and nothing's happening, like no bait taps or anything to try and pull him in, you kind of have to realize that they're still defusing the bomb. So unfortunate. I guess when you kill 2 through smoke, you're kind of thinking, I've probably done the job. But yeah, unfortunate for them. Endpoint, though, they are going to buy here.
They're going to spend all that cash. Robin has gotten the AK, the only AK of the team this time around. A couple of Galils around it and a UMP 45 on Thomas as well. So Robin will have to be the one to make a big statement. Heroic on the other side of things, because they lost so many players, are also kind of in a struggle economy-wise. Still an AWP on Cadian, of course, but Mighty Mac's getting so much free real estate over towards long. Crucial will be picked off, and the reason why they're allowed into this bottleneck is because Cadian is holding from that CT angle, technically playing a 1-1-3 split right now. A very common way of playing Inferno CT side when you have an AWP towards that banana. Play early, aggressive, and then rotate and hold that 1-1-3.
Yeah, they've tried to actually bait the rotation by throwing in a few extra grenades, and sure, they've pulled off one man, but it's ultimately still going to be 3 players defending this site. Not a great crossfire to walk into, especially with the amount of time left on the clock. And, well, Thomas has got 2, but they didn't expect the 3rd. That was the surprise factor. This round is already over. The time has ticked away, and Surreal, all he can do is hold on to a Galil, which, well, definitely not ideal.
What's the money going to look like? Definitely going to be an eco for Endpoint. Might have some cash. Actually, yeah, with Surreal surviving here, this is... They still have to go for the eco for sure. Just buy some Deagles, buy some Tech 9s around it. Heroic on the other side of things. Bob is saving the MP9, making sure that he can play that again. It's fine. Money's low, and it has been so for a long time, because every single round comes down to a few players surviving. Now 4-1 lead for Heroic. Endpoint, they need to get something done. Not in this round, but in the next buy.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the maps, though, where you can get a lot of work done with pistols. I think I've seen more, like, ridiculous sort of Tech 9 rushes, and, well, except maybe Cobblestone. I think Cobblestone's the one exception. I kind of miss it for that fact, but at the same time, seeing Olof being able to run out the plat and just wreck people with a Tech 9, it somewhat scars me, as makes me happy at the same time. So, but this map, there's so much potential, especially with that A site, the ability to get towards short quickly and wrap around, and they've got the smoke available. The problem is the counter utility is there, and in fact Heroic have been holding on to a lot of their grenades. Surreal even just going to dip his toe into the flames. I'm not quite sure about that one. Testing the waters, I guess, but instead it's just left him a little bit lower, and with the only rifle in play, that's not a good position to be in.
Now long is open up, and they know this. So the 2 CT players have actually focused on holding this pit angle, because they know they can get wrapped from so many different places on the map. Mighty Max and the boys trying to exit out of apartments, and short. Cadian grabs the first one.
Thomas is at least able to get one, but Nico, he's firm within the pit. Makes this look all too easy. Surreal trying to make things as costly as possible, as he still has that saved rifle, and it will leave him probably with another Galil going into this round, but the rest of the team will be able to purchase, and they're keeping that economy honest. And although this is a 5-1 scoreline, and you're looking at this going, Heroic at the moment are almost dominating in score, their money's not great. So this is still a position where if Endpoint win a round, they're either going to have a force buy up against them or a straight eco, and then they're right back in the map.
Yeah, the only 2 people who could buy right now are Tessus and Cadian. The remaining 3 players cannot buy if Heroic were to lose a round right now. So that's always one thing you have to keep in mind, and also one thing that the coach has to mention right now for Endpoint. Yes, it looks bad, but, you know, we've gotten so many kills. Their economy is still not very good. We just need to string a couple of rounds together, and we'll force them on a couple of ecos. So they just need to focus up and get it going. I would like to see them move more towards a B execute in the end. I think that has worked out fine for them. So if they can maybe pull a rotation, pull that 1-1-3 rotation, and then hit B with some smokes towards CT, that could be a good shot right now for Heroic, or for Endpoint, sorry.
Cadian's still trying to be a little bit more cheeky. The only worry for me with Endpoint is A lot of the time when you see these close rounds, we talk about how if you win one, you can change the game. You can bring yourself back into it. A lot of the time, though, that one never comes, especially with a team like Heroic. The timing's actually really good for Max. Unfortunately, Barup has his teammate covered, and that loses in the initial duel. This is so risky from Thomas. A solo peek, but he wins it. And with still 2 players on this side, but one desperately low, Banana control's been gathered, but are Endpoint actually going to execute off it?
They should at least go back for a second. Maybe make the CT player hold his position a little bit. Stand off. And then re-execute onto the B bomb side. But unbeknownst to them, Tessus has actually pushed in the back. So the CT side knows this. This is going to be a banana play. They have a full rotation and a player in the back of Endpoint because of this push from Tessus. So this is completely red. Let's see how Nico handles it.
This is rough. The Danes are in a perfect position, and Tessus could pretty much end this in its tracks. Down over the top of the smoke is already going to pick off one, and he's bought time, more importantly. Gets the second through the smoke as well. This round is over. Tessus is about to ruin their day. If Down hasn't already done it. The smoke, at least from behind, will deny him for a second, but no bomb plant coming in, and Robin left to try and clutch. He does come up with 2, but he needed to spin around and hit the third so fast. He can't quite do it. 6-1. Again, another round where it's costly for Heroic, but as said, they're not really going to care.
And this round is another great example of why the scoreboard isn't the true factor, why stats isn't the true factor. Tessus goes 1 for 1 in this round, but technically he wins the entire round on the back of the information he gathers on his push there. That's just such a nice play for the whole team. They can do their rotation perfectly. They can be absolutely secure in what they're doing. And once more, it's a great little story out there to all you guys to not just focus on the kills, on the deaths, also focus on the kind of value you bring to your team. And Tessus in that play brings so much value apart from his 1 kill.
Again, just some pistols for Endpoint, a chance for Heroic to maybe finally make some extra cash, because even still, at 2 kills here, and we'd still be questioning the economy of the Danes. As said, though, if that break round never comes, it's irrelevant. Like, we could see this go all the way to 11-1, and we've been talking about how they could break back, and at this point...
They're almost there, Tom. They're almost there.
Is filled. The push coming in. They try and double nade out of pit, which is something I'm a big fan of. They have to get the second player in pit, though, and again, Nico comes up with a huge double. A 3 kill for Thomas, though. And again, we look at a 1 versus 2 situation, a closer spot, but such low HP. He needs this instant kill on Cadian, and well, he's a little bit too quick on the trigger. 7-1, the Danes continue. And considering this is Endpoint's map pick, this is starting to get scary, Risk.
Yeah, it definitely is. But that was something the analysts were touching upon as well, is that this is a map the Heroic definitely know how to play. They might not have actually practiced it since they came back from the break. I'm not actually sure. Maybe they have a couple of times. But this is a map that they are very sure of. They don't feel like they need to do anything too much different. They just need to go with their gut feeling on this one. And this is a strong map for them. To be honest, I feel like this whole veto is pretty strong for Heroic. And they have definitely won that.
Well, yeah, I think when your opponent picks one of your strongest maps, you're going to be fairly happy with that. And I think the way that they actually played the veto by leaving an overpass, I think that was a very smart play from them. Because I was looking at a Dust 2 and going, you know what? Endpoint, they went close versus the likes of Big on Dust 2, who we can widely consider one of the best Dust 2 teams in the world, if not the at the moment. So the fact that they did so well on it, Heroic have just gone, you know what? Well, if you want to pick overpass, you can pick overpass, but we're going to change this veto up completely. Now, obviously, it's possible that Endpoint saw this coming, but I do have my doubts. There's the double nade again, though. I mentioned it in the last round. I think that was even 3. They want to kill out that pit player, and even the spam through the wall is going to force off Tessus. This is their best opportunity so far. He stays alive at least a little longer.
They're going to save.
It has to be a save, and, well, as said, considering how many rounds in a row, or even just the fact that this is 7-1, the economy was never good, and Endpoint have finally found that break. Will they build off it, though, Risk?
Yeah, the problem with 2 people surviving is that you can definitely structure a buy around this. You can definitely get 4 guys on weapons and then 1 pistol, and that, I think that's going to be enough for Heroic. In this sense, they're going to be pretty happy about it. One thing I seem to remember last time these 2 teams played, like earlier on, wasn't that like an OT victory for Endpoint on like Inferno in the qualifier for Summit, I think. I feel like that was the last time they met.
I think they won OT on Mirage.
Oh, was it Mirage? Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they won 19-15 on Mirage and then lost Vertigo 16-9 and lost, well, and Heroic won Train 16-5.
So wrong map, right score.
Yes. But they didn't play Inferno. So that's the difference. And I think the other thing as well is a lot of the time we do see Endpoint picking into Vertigo. The problem is I think they realize versus Heroic that's not really something you can do because they are also a very good Vertigo team. Even with many different iterations, I still stand by the fact that one of my favorite players to watch on Vertigo is S-Tag. And since him leaving, they've still been pretty good at Vertigo.
Cadian has an ult this time around. It's going to be 2 MP9s and a Deagle on Tessus, so not the best advice. We can definitely agree on that, but not a terrible one either. Anything can happen here with the Deagles. And I think Endpoint, they have to respect this. And they are right now. He's holding back, waiting for the angles. Surreal, very nicely played by him in this situation. Knows that at some point they're going to get hungry. At some point the players with bad weaponry are going to try and get a peek in, and he's just waiting for it. Takes the perfect chance. Very nicely done by Surreal.
Ready though. Oh, Christian's actually waiting. A bit of an audacious position, I will admit. And Nico within the smoke, they're about to touch tips. They bumped into each other. I don't know if Surreal actually realizes in the smoke. It always gives you that slight advantage if you're within it, which is a horrific feature of Counter-Strike. Boosted up his Barup, a clinical first shot, and then Stown combines alongside him. It's all falling apart, Barup! He finds a second headshot, and now Robin, the Swede, is all that's left. The Brit for the day, at least. Can he save this? Because this was a round that they had to capitalize on, and it looked so good at the beginning. 2 opening picks, but this B-site defense has been clinical. And there's nothing Robin can do. At this point, it's a save.
Nah. Yeah. He has to just stay here. Wants to bring the AK and the head armor into the next round. They are going to have decent money here, so you can definitely drop one to Thomas and they can get a buy going, no problem. But it's been like, one round with maybe economy control, if you can even call it that. I wouldn't actually even go that far, but now if they lose this one, it's all the way back to a Tech 9s or maybe even a Force buy.
They're just building storylines, you know. Everybody loves a comeback king.
Yeah, they have been pretty good at that so far, especially against Danish teams, or mainly Danish teams.
Are you going to start doing that? Well, you know, they have one person.
Well, you know, there's one guy who's not Danish. Actually, they have also a Brazilian coach, you know. It can't be counted as a fully Danish team, obviously.
Oh, God. Then again, you have to say at this point, I think Peace is almost considered Danish with the amount of different Danish teams that he's actually worked with.
That is true.
I think he's an international honorary. He's an honorary Dane.
Yeah, he's an international citizen. He's been everywhere. Endpoint take a timeout, and yeah, once again, aggressive play down mid. It works.
Oh, Tessus almost gets away with that. I'm quite surprised, especially off the back of a FAMAS. And now Nico pounces, and with a few low players, again, this starts to fall apart. I like this from Heroic. It's almost like a disruptor round. You just throw that in and go, okay, you now have a plan. You've thought of something to do in this round, and we're just going to run down mid and completely change whatever you had. And the problem now is, what, 49 HP between 2 players facing off against a healthy-looking Heroic. This is a really rough situation to be in. I think the only way this round slips away is if they get a quick entry onto Stown, which is easier said than done.
Yeah, Stown is holding a close angle. That means that he can take the one shot and then rotate back. He's going to take the shot. Yeah, he's actually going to stay for it. I would say take the shot and then put down the smoke, which he will do now, which is the safe way to play this. Yes, it allows Surreal to put down his 3T smoke, but Stown will just play in the smoke. Doesn't care. There's a gap in that one. Takes off the head of Surreal.
And again, like in a lot of the early stages of this round, we're seeing a few kills go the way of Endpoint, but it always seems to be at so much cost. And then there's just too many players, I guess, that can turn this round back. each and every time. Again, we're talking about the fact that there's never really been any economy for Heroic built up, but they're just winning a lot of these rounds in clutch situations. This time they've actually invested into SMGs because they know exactly what they're doing. And look at the nade damage. Tessus even going to help them out. He's going to kill Nico. He wants those eco frags, but there's a fair bit invested in this round. It doesn't even matter. They are decimating them. Max has 2 HP. He's going to get jumping MP9. And well, it says 3 on the scoreboard, but it's actually a 4K from Tessus.
Yeah, that's true. Teammates do count. And this is looking rough now. We were talking about it earlier in the half, like Heroic, yeah, it's been a couple of rounds, but it's based on 1v2s, 1v1s, 2v1s, all that stuff. Endpoint have a chance of coming back. Now it's 10 CT rounds for Heroic, and they have the economy still to buy another one if they lose this round. So Endpoint, they desperately need to get at least 4 and potentially, most likely also 5 in order to really stay alive in this series. And then they need the pistol on the back of that. Kaden missed the uncharacteristic shot, but still has Nico with him. Oh, Kaden through the wall.
Dear.
Yeah, the spam there is pretty common at this point. The second you see bullets coming through, you just go for the reply. Surreal though with the reply onto Tessus, and now Kaden is stuck holding the mid, but Adul he'll surely win. He has a big advantage now. Crucial just walking up to check long. Kaden just punishes him.
And there seem to be an awful lot of really risky fights, like 1v1 duels being taken by Endpoint. We haven't seen too many team takes, and I feel like that's where this team a lot of the time thrives. They're just being picked apart one by one, no one holding angles, no real synergy, and being ripped apart by Cadian's AWP. 4 kills for him. He's looking for the ace. Try and close this one out, and well, Nico's not going to allow it, but it really doesn't matter. A first cleanish round for Heroic, and again, like I feel like Endpoint are almost falling into sort of bad tendencies here, because look at all of these duels that Cadian's taking. Yeah. Sure, it's fantastic positioning. Sure, he's able to maneuver himself around and be surprising. You've got to give him props for that, but there was no chance for a trade in pretty much every single
In every single duel, the T player getting killed was alone. Like the only one you could maybe say wasn't quite alone was the first frag, because that was through a wall and wasn't really expected. But every other single duel was one where Endpoint player just walked in or stood alone in a position. And you just cannot let that happen on a T side. One duel is fine, losing that to maybe try to open things up, but having 4 players die to that or 3 players die to that, that's not acceptable if you wanna be a top 20 team.
Okay, Cadian managed to pad his stats a bit in the last round, but I feel like in a lot of them he hasn't had a whole lot to do. Brupp has been having a great game. It was someone that we spoke about in the early stages of the tournament that we sometimes question, like, what level he can hit, I guess is the best way to put it. Mighty Max burnt alive over towards logs, and again, like, banana control is firmly in the hands of Heroic. In fact, the B site in general has been a safe haven for the Danes, and that's a terrifying prospect. Like, if you could lock down B, that really doesn't allow much for your opposition. You can even see the 4-man stack now coming up over on A.
You can definitely boost over this one, but they're ready for it. That's a nice read from Endpoint. Put down the smoke, expect the boost, and then just be ready for it. This forces the hand of Endpoint to go towards Down, who has been boosted up, and they're technically playing 1-4 right now. If he gets shot out here, that's going to be the round for Endpoint. And he's actually going to get flashed. Will he get the first kill? Yes, he does. Can rotate around. Secondary for Down as well. Third one potential. Yes! Down. Go on, lad! Okay. 3 for him. And Robin now 1v4.
Oh dear. He's going to get caught Brupp with the quick rotation. The problem is that's been the almost caveat that we've had with a lot of these rounds. If they can beat Down, so they get the B site. And they have not. They have not done it once. That was the first time I think that they've actually had a chance to get to the B site, and that was only with 1 player remaining in a 1 versus 4. So he's had a phenomenal game, though we know obviously still technically the youngster within this squad. Like, we talk about Tessus coming in, but Down is still younger. And I think that might just be because of how fantastic a player he has become over the last few years. It was a ridiculous talent and is only getting better and better. And at the moment on Endpoint's side, there's not a player that can match up.
Down has not had his 19th birthday yet, so he's still 18. That means he is the youngest player. That's true. I was kind of wondering because, yeah, it kind of. I've seen Stound's name for so long since he was like 14 years old on the scene, but it is true.
Yeah,
he's 18 years
how
old.
young he is.
Yeah, it's insane. But his story is also one that I feel like, at least in maybe a couple of years, when his talent really blossoms and he becomes a potential player on the top 5 team in the world.
Well, the 9th Astralis player.
That's going to be such an interesting story because he was discovered very early on. And I actually remember, let's wait and see the score here. Mighty Max dying off. The very first time he was discovered in a team with like his 3 brothers at a local Danish LAN tournament at the age of 14. Like that's the Cinderella story for CS.
Oh. 2 versus 3. We've seen a few clutches attempted by Endpoint, but as you can tell by the scoreline, they haven't exactly been going too well so far. An opportunity for Crucial and Robin to at least give themselves a little bit of a lifeline, or maybe even just gain some confidence into the second map, as this one is looking pretty rough, to say the least, for the UK squad. We're up. Pop flash through. Nice shots from Robin. He at least gains 1, but he is slightly isolated. Crucial needs to try and find a spot to help it. In fact, he's going to go down. It's left all onto the lone Swede, and he can't do anything. Once again, it's a retake, but the time actually is too far gone. They will at least get themselves a 3rd. It's the silver lining to what was a bleak half for the UK side. They're going to have to make that Cinderella story happen on Inferno, and we'll find out if they do after a short break.
The chicken is ready. Are you ready for the second half of this one? It's going to be Heroic versus Endpoint, 12-3. What do you think, Tom? How are you feeling? How's the flag doing?
It's become part of my chair for a little bit because it is a bit warm. Here we go, though. It's Mighty Max's... Never mind. It's the retake. The retake is on. That is not a good start. A quick opener for CeX and... In fact, they've even got a player waiting down the bottom of Banana to try and hold them off. They may not need him. This is a slaughter in the church. Leaving Robin, and while now just Thomas is saving the Kevlar. It's as depressing as it can get in a pistol round, but it's something. He can play a little bit of aim practice just while he waits, and while eventually CeX will win that duel. An utterly dominant pistol, as has been the rest of the map. Like we started off again, it was talking about how a 5-1, 6-1, like if they just broke that economy, they finally did it. And then they lost the next round to what was a sort of risky force out from Heroic. So from then onwards, it's pretty much been all downhill for Endpoint. I think they're definitely going to need to reset, but they have forced this one. I'm not really surprised by this at all, needing to get back in the game quickly. And also, they will at least get one buy round even after this point.
The Eagles and Scouts have been a dangerous combination before, so this is not something that we should underestimate. But unfortunate timing there from Crucial. Katie's just hunting for it. He might get backstab now. Yeah. Good positioning for Mighty Max. Crucial is still alive. The bomb is still towards T slope. So even though you have 2 players towards long and 1 towards apartments, the bomb is still down T slope. So it could be a full CT rotation here. Heroic might be caught off guard. This is not really stellar decision making, I must say. The shot is firing.
Well, it's close, but again, not really making much of a difference to the round. They do convert. And now, yeah, it's pretty much all in, isn't it, for Endpoint? Just slamming their chips on the table. We probably won't see a full buy from them in the second half, which is a little bit depressing.
Yeah.
But they need to try and win one of these, because fighting back this many rounds in a row, it's just not likely.
At some point, you just need one of your players to have like a heroic moment. So...
Pun
Hasn't happened
intended.
yet. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about that until I said it, but yeah, like you need someone to come in with like a 1v3 or something, and that's not gonna come on the back of an eco. So you gotta give yourself a chance to make that play happen, to make that comeback start, and it's gonna be rough no matter what.
They are somewhat gambling once again, leaving Surreal as the lone defender, but Mighty Max is available. Smoke will go down as a counter to what we've seen out from the T's, but ultimately early on in the round, they're almost just baiting the small amount of utility that's there for Endpoint at this point.
Rotation coming around, making noise towards the banana. Down is now leaving. The rest of the team is the same, and they have pulled a rotation from Crucial towards that B bomb site, which is perfect. They're gonna have basically a 5v2 with 1 player rotating in from Endpoint. It couldn't be better for Heroic. This is exactly what they wanted.
It's down bait the sound with that jump. Is that what he was doing? Just before he left, he jumps by the wall just to try and bait them into keeping players there. It's such a small detail, but it worked. Nice shot from Robin, though. A few more of those, and maybe they can hold on to this side. He's got Thomas to actually save him. Just runs the gauntlet straight into the apartments, but Down and Nico combine to give them back a 3 versus 3. Still a huge weaponry advantage, but at least it's given time for the rotation. Mighty Mac making his way round short. There's a little bit of damage, but Nico's still there. They've brought these players low, but Nico just slams them back. It's all left on to Surreal. 1 versus 3, and Stown to close. 15-3, it's going to be another force to try and survive in this map, but ultimately, you know, this is all part of the plan, Risk. We're just waiting for Mirage.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, so far in this tournament, they have been very good at playing very badly on the first map and then coming back. So this is all going according to plan, Tom.
I think didn't they win the first map versus Big, though?
They actually played really well on the first map.
Yeah, and then they almost won the second one. That would have been
but against mostly Danish teams. It's a different
yeah, let's go with that.
They have a different game plan against Danish teams, you know. You gotta have that.
Take away their chocolate milk and then, you know,
yeah, that
make
is
the
true.
Danes angry.
That is
Oh,
Thomas, that is
he almost got away with that.
That is unfortunate. And also Real has to land like 3 1 digs. And it's going to be 0-1 Deeks.
So far, yeah.
So far,
You're right.
yeah.
You're right. I take it back.
All right, let's go. Crucial and Robert.
Oh,
let's
no.
see. Can they get a frag?
It's always the wrong way. It's always the wrong way. And Nico's taken 2 as well. This is it. Mighty Max, 1v5. He's got to try and hold on. And yeah, that's about right. Dear Lord. How quickly can we make this post-game segment? You know, I'm not sure I want to talk about that match. That's one of the most dominant displays, and it's not even their most dominant defeat so far this tournament. Obviously, the 16-0 that came up before. Don't put me back on camera.
Very nicely done. Good job, guys. The Danes win the
Come
first
back.
match.
They're going to win the next
We
match.
are used to, but this time around we'll not make the same mistake as we did when it was the Mad Lions game. So we're gonna take a short
fun,
break
Blair.
and let some people a little bit more knowledgeable than us break this down and see what they can take off of 63.
A clinical showing from the Danes sees them crush Endpoint in the palm of their hands as they take map 1 16-3. Now it is do or die time for Endpoint as they only have one more map separating them from elimination. Christine, we were questioning the veto a bit coming into this, and Heroic, they made it look so easy.
What a huge slap back to reality. I mean, Endpoint, I gotta say, if you're gonna be willing to come out and pick Heroic's own map pick, their comfort pick, you gotta show up with a lot more than they did, because I gotta say their T side was a lot more than lackluster, a lot less than lackluster. It was a bit disappointing. I think their banana control, you could see the idea of it in the beginning. They brought the fire, they brought the heat, but Stone and Borup, man, they just had a great time at that top banana, consistently winning out the duels. And I think at a certain point, Endpoint, they lost a little bit too much faith towards that B, so they stopped going that way. And from that point on, they couldn't figure out another win condition for themselves.
It just looked so rough for them. Blair, in your opinion, was it Endpoint's game plan just not being up to scratch, or was it Heroic's firepower just being too much?
I think it's both. I felt like they gave too much space for Heroic to work with. How many times did we see the players pushing down mid? Yeah, and some of those, they had some of those bonus rounds, fair enough, but you saw the aggression coming out from Heroic, and Heroic just, they had the timing down, right? And even at the B bombs at the banana area, like Potter mentioned, it was almost like these players, the Heroic guys, were trying to outshine each other. Like, hey, check out my nice 4K, now check out my 4K. They were just having fun. They were just like mowing them down. And yeah, maybe they might have had a little bit of a fight on the CD side, but like Potter said, the T side had a lot to be asked for. There were a couple of rounds as well I saw where Caden got that 4K, almost got the ace. He was just given free kills. No trades coming in. They're just
Hardly
going
any
for dry
flashes.
takes. No flashes.
I didn't see any flashes.
Why did you pick that map? Like, Inferno is one of the more tactical maps in the map pool that we have. And you don't have a utility usage, and you're going to go against a team who like playing Inferno. You done messed up.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess up from their side, indeed. I mean, just looking at the scoreboard, it was only Thomas to really break into those double digits, getting 12 kills. And you look down further in the scoreboard, again, we can't pin it all on one person for sure. But you know what? We were hyping up Crucial coming into this, but he was so quiet. It just didn't feel like there was any room for him to move, Christine.
Yeah, and it is tough. It's tough starting on the T side of Inferno as an Opera, and it's tough getting into the game when that score line is just it's getting so lopsided, right? But going into Mirage, that's the shining light at the end of the tunnel for Crucial. He's going to be starting on the CT side first. We saw him having a pop-off game on that CT Mirage just yesterday. So certainly this is everything Crucial could ask for to get himself back into this series.
And I think that's a really good point, because you know what? They've come off worse losses to start off their series. Obviously, that's 0-16 to Mad Lions. And then again, it was Mirage coming as a second map. And Endpoint, they managed to win it. So Blair, are you counting this team down and out just yet?
It's a tough call because last time these two teams faced off on Mirage, Endpoint actually beat Heroic. This is a while back, so before the player break was the CS Summit, the RMR event, and it went to overtime. The problem is both teams like playing it, but look at the caliber of teams Heroic play against and who they've beaten. Mad Lions, fine, with a stand-in. They've beaten Vitality recently. They've beaten ENCE. They've beaten I think they came close to OG, but they've beaten teams of a much higher caliber than what Endpoint usually play. And the fact that Heroic have picked a map, they're going to feel comfortable on it. Looking at the way they smacked Mad Lions around, and Mad Lions weren't playing bad. It was more like Heroic is so comfortable in Mirage. And yes, like Potter said, it's a map that Endpoint should be feeling comfortable on. They usually they would have potentially gone for this map pick, but the fact that Heroic picked it, I feel the sign of doom and gloom. This is going to be it. Endpoint are not going to take it to map number 3.
Oh, I've got to hold out some hope, for the UK boys. But with that, I think all there is left to do is throw it into map number 2. Will the UK lads redeem themselves, or will the Danes tear them apart? Find out after this.